In this part of the video, we're going to learn about how to transition the sewing machine into an embroidery machine. There's more to it than just sliding on the unit. We've got to make some other changes too. In the manual on page 27 is a quick start guide, which is a great thing to look at even if you've done this before, to make sure you get all the steps correct. First, we have to turn the sewing machine off. Next, we're going to take off the foot. We press on the back here and it releases the foot. Put that in my accessory box. And we're going to take off the ankle. You will need one of the screwdrivers. I prefer the larger one in order to do this. There we go. And now we have the ankle off. While I'm at it, I'm going to take out my thread, because embroidery uses a different type of thread. And I'm also going to take out my thread at the top. Next, we're going to take the needle out. This is the needle bar and the needle screw. If we look at the end of the screw, we can see that there is a spot for a screwdriver. So if this is in too tightly, we can use the screwdriver, but you must hold on to the needle while you release it. I happen to be able to release it, but remember, you have that L screwdriver for a reason. So now we're going to take this out. Using the embroidery machine requires special embroidery needles. Although some people like just using an 11 sharp, I prefer ones that are designed for embroidery. Either way, you should always start with a fresh needle when you're switching your machine over into embroidery mode. At this point, the instructions tell me to put a new needle back in. I personally prefer to wait until I have more things done so the needle's not in my way. Now we have to change out the plate. Currently in the machine is the regular stitch plate. It has a wide opening, and we're going to change it out to the straight stitch plate, which has a small opening for the needle to pass through. It also has a red dot to help you know which one it is. Over time though, the red dot can wear off. Use one of the screwdrivers to loosen these screws, and then you will be able to just run your finger around them to loosen them the rest of the way, most of the time. Once they get going, they come out pretty easy. You will need these screws to put the other one in, so please don't lose them. They should only be out for a moment, so hopefully you can't lose them in that time. Now we're going to lift this one off. I'm just going to put the cover back on because it actually goes with it, so I don't want to misplace that. And now the new one goes on. This is also a great time to check to see if you have a bunch of lint down here and need to do a good cleaning. Mine looks pretty good, so we'll leave it alone. There we go, the straight stitch plate is on, and now we just need to put those screws back on. You can certainly get them most of the way tight by hand, but I do suggest that you use that screwdriver to do the last little tiny turn, because sewing machines have a lot of vibration and it can actually slowly loosen these screws. So you want to make sure that they're not too loose when you start. So we have the straight stitch plate on. Now we need to put the embroidery foot on. This part is going to go down. This will sit on top of the needle bar, and this U here is going to go around that screw. You'll notice that the foot doesn't actually have enough room to go on. So we're going to take the screw completely out before putting this new foot on. So we're going to slide this right on here. And everything will be lined up, and then we just put the screw right back in. You'll definitely want to make sure that you use the screwdriver, either the long one or the L one, to tighten this. As the embroidery foot gets lots of vibrations, you want to make sure that it is perfectly in place and very tight. So I'm going to put my foot down and just make sure everything seems to be working right. Then I'm going to run my needle up and down. There we go. Now we need to replace the needle in our machine. We could have done it right after taking out the old one, but I decided to wait to do a couple other steps first so the needle wasn't in my way.
A very popular type of needle are these organ anti-glue needles. They are specifically for embroidery and especially great if you like using temporary spray adhesive or sticky stabilizer. Some people like to just use a size 11 sharp needle, but I prefer using one labeled for embroidery because the shape of the needle point is slightly different. Sewing machine needles have a rounded front and a flat back,
which is almost impossible to see on camera, but you can definitely feel it in your hand. One side is flat, and that flat part is going to face the back of the machine. So you're going to line the needle up and then push upwards, and you want to keep lightly pushing until it has gone up as far as it will, and then we are going to tighten down the needle. I definitely recommend that you use your L screwdriver to get the needle nice and tight.
As always, I like to test it and make sure it's going perfectly through the hole. The next step is to add the embroidery unit.
So I'm going to take the accessory part off by just pulling sideways. And then I'm going to take the embroidery unit, again, not touching that center part, and then I'm going to push it into place until I hear a click. The release to take it off is over here on the end underneath. You push up and you pull. You will have to hold the machine from coming with you. So that's how you release it, and then you let that release off and push into the machine to sync it up.